Chris Carter here with a Tuesday episode of the Locked On Steelers podcast. We're going to take a closer look at how Justin Fields has performed in his first two games. How well is he progressing? What should Arthur Smith's offense actually look like when it continues to develop? And will it actually develop? All with Stars and Skulls grades here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter here with Alan Saunders from SteelersNow.com. It's going to be a fun episode. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things in the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As I said before, we're joined by the man himself, Alan Saunders. He's back in the building. We are sad that we missed him last week because of internet problems, but we're back now this week. He's on. Alan, how you doing? Fresh back from Denver.
I'm tired, but I'm good. I like Denver. Good town. Had a good time there. Yeah, it's my first time. I enjoyed it.
Good places to drink for sure. All right, Alan, let's dig right into the lead topic, and that is Justin Fields. I'll get to Arthur Smith's offense in a bit here, but Justin Fields, still another game where he doesn't really pop off, but he does what he needs to do to get the team across the finish line. He's not the catalyst of everything, but he's playing to the role and playing the part well. 13 of 20, 117 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions. Had a couple big plays called back, including a touchdown pass to George Pickens, a 51-yard bomb to George Pickens that was a throw on a laser that was perfectly thrown. Alan, I took some time to look back over the film, and I was able to look at some different parts. For the most part, I like the way that his internal clock is working, and I think that's a good sign for his progress. I still think he needs to put some things together, but I do think that speaks to Justin Fields doing the right things to be who the Steelers needs him to be, and that's at least putting him on the right track for keeping him in consideration for somewhere down the line in the future.
That's interesting because I've not rewatched the game. I'm going on my first impression here. I've been busy flying back from across the country. We don't all get, watch from home, a little cushy gig over there.
Yes,
You got going on the post that there, I did not think I really cared for his internal clock much. I thought that the throwing of the football was the best I've seen him against Denver. I thought he was very accurate. I thought some of the passes were physically impressive. The long ball to Pickens that gets overturned, sure, but the touchdown pass to Darnell Washington was a dot. There was a really nice third down out route where Pickens, and we'll talk about him, but just cooked Surtain, but it was right on the sideline. I thought that was a beautiful pass. I think if you want to critique Justin Fields for me, I think there's guys open sooner that or open enough sooner that need to get the ball instead of holding on to it forever. Still, around 3 seconds time to throw. That's a tough assignment for a really young offensive line who I think in general is probably better at run blocking than pass blocking anyway. You're just not going to get 3 seconds of clean pocket. You're going to get 3 seconds of running around, and sometimes it works, but like this Steelers wide receivers aren't like the world's greatest separators either. I think he'd be better off taking some of those early throws, and I think they might have been a little bit more consistent moving the ball in the second half if he had.
I'm not saying he's perfect. I think that where he is as far as his internal clock is better than where I thought it would be at this point, considering what I was looking at in Chicago and what we saw in the spring. I think he's taking steps forward, but you're right. And in fact, I have a film study that'll be out for the Post-Gazette Tuesday, probably early afternoonish is probably we'll get it done, where there are reads that he missed. There was a third down where he stared down George Pickens. If he just looks to his right a little bit, Pat Freiermuth is wide open for a first down. There's plays like that. But again, backup quarterback guy, still developing, still figuring out the offense, as everyone is in a very young offense. I'm not going to pin this on him and say, oh man, he's terrible. He's not going to fix these things. But Alan, there's many people out there now that are pushing that Justin Fields is pushing Russell Wilson for the starting job. And I still don't think it's that. I thought that in the first quarter, when I tweeted this, like, I think it was like maybe mid-second quarter when they were moving the ball again. And I was like, so far, he's playing like a QB1 because he had the touchdown drive. They had another good drive. They had the touchdown that was called back. And I was like, this is the efficient kind of quarterback play all the Steelers are looking for right now. And then after that, I think that he didn't play like a QB1 as much in the second half. But again, I still feel like he's making progress. I'm just not on the side that he has done enough to replace a fully 100% healthy Russell Wilson for what the Steelers expect him to be able to do yet.
It's kind of interesting because I think, through 2 games, and it's still a pretty small sample, we've not seen any of the bad Justin Fields. He's got no turnovers. It's been very steady, right? And I think I wasn't sure coming into this that he would be able to provide that. Like, I think he's shown that he can be trusted, is reliable enough to not turn the ball over, to not lose the game for his team. I mean, there were plenty of times in Chicago where it was just back-breaking turnovers, and they've not had that. And honestly, like, other than some CQ exchange issues, which I don't put all on him, like, not only is he not turning the ball over, he's not really putting it in jeopardy. Like, it's not like there's been like a bunch of near misses or something like that. So he's done a really nice job of that. He's completed a lot of the passes he's thrown. Like, his completion percentage is really nice. The ball's getting to where largely he wants it to. I don't know. I think he's shown me some growth, some improvements, especially in that. What I'd say is, like, he's, in my mind, he's risen his floor. I'm not sure that we've even.
That's a good way to put it.
I'm not even sure we've even attempted a look at his ceiling. Like, the Steelers haven't even really taken the shackles off for us to have an idea of what that might look like. And I think it's really hard to sit here and say, all I'll say is this. I don't think that anything on the field Justin Fields has done tells me, oh my gosh, this guy's the starting quarterback. Like, forget that Russ guy. Like, oh my, it has to be him. And I think the fact that the Steelers haven't taken those shackles off tells me they're probably planning on going back to Russ, right? Like, that's just
right.
Like, they're treating him like a backup quarterback, which is not what you would do if you were trying to give him the starting job.
No, I agree. I think that's the thing here is you look at how they're handling him, and it's not like they've opened up the offense. Now, but here's the other point, Alan, and I think to balance that, this offense isn't going to be about opening it up. Like, this offense is going to be about pound it on the ground, play action, control the ball, don't turn it over. And I think Russell Wilson is even going to have a little bit of shackles on him. I don't think as much as we're seeing right now. I think there will be a little bit more liberties given to him there. But like, I do think that's part of what they want of him. But again, I think that's a credit to Fields because he understands the assignment. He understands what he's there to do, and he's not trying to go in and play hero ball. And I think that's where I was a little concerned, like, will Justin Fields go in here and say, I have to prove him QB1, make some throws that could be great, but also could be disastrous. So far, the times he's taken the shots, they've either been, obvious overthrows that have just been way too far for a defender to mess with, or they've been right in the hands of George Pickens, whether they've been called back or not.
Yeah. And I think, I think Fields probably played better than his stat line would indicate in that game. Like, he had some stuff taken back. I mean, you give him the touchdown and the long pass to Pickens. He didn't commit any of those penalties, by the way. Like, the whole offense is dragged down by those penalties. He's the only one not taking any. And I don't think the bad CQ exchange was on him this week either. It was either, the guard or the center. And so I think he's kind of held back by the offense in general in terms of just trying to evaluate him. It's really hard to say, like, oh, Justin couldn't have done more. I don't know. Maybe if they wouldn't have taken a bunch of dumb penalties and, you put those stats back on his board, and then not only that, but they're not in 1st and 20 all the time, and they're actually able to sustain a couple more drives in the second half, maybe it could have gotten into the kind of game where you get yourself into a situation where you're looking like, oh, that was pretty impressive by Justin Fields. But I don't think the team, both the game plan of the team and the rest of the offense around him, really gave him that opportunity.
Well, I want to talk about the game plan and how the game plan should develop in Arthur Smith's offense. We'll do that next and get to some stars and skulls grades in a minute here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter here with Alan Saunders. Stick with us. We still got a lot to discuss. But first, I want to remind you that this show is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats these days and might not have the time or resources to hire. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time's the app that you can download right to your phone to get tickets to any sporting, music, concert, theater, comedy events near you. And Game Time has so many options right now. And Game Time also has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff so to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. For example, right now you could find a super deal for Steelers home opener against the Chargers this Sunday and get lower bowl tickets at Acrisure Stadium for just $214. If you haven't been to a Steelers game, don't miss out, especially on a home opener. It gets lively, and if the Steelers are doing well, it's going to be a crazy environment. Get those tickets and those prices at Game Time. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets to all your sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And they have a best price guarantee that says that if you find tickets in the same section in a row for less somewhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference of those prices. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase, or go to their website, gametime.co. Terms and conditions apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. Back here in the Locked On Steelers podcast, Chris Carter here with Alan Saunders of SteelersNow.com. Alan, we talked about how the game plan limits Justin Fields right now, and I agree. Like, what they're doing right now isn't letting him open it up. It's not taking too many shots. It's not being really risky at all for the Steelers that much. But there's the rising voices, and I guess the natural angst or anxiety of Steelers fans that are just like, okay, we saw 18 points week 1, 13 points week 2. They're wins. But this don't convince us that we've moved that far past the Matt Canada era that lives so fresh in so many Steelers fans' minds. Do you see inklings of Arthur Smith's offense that could develop into a lot more? Or do you think there is a real reason of concern to say, could this offense just be a perpetual problem that's going to be carrying on from the last 3 years?
No, I mean, no concern about that whatsoever. The Arthur Smith is a really good offensive coordinator. Is he like the best in the NFL? Probably not. But he's had a lot of success. And I think you look at the track record, one. I think, two, just the buy-in from the players from day one he arrived. It made sense to them. He made it make sense to them. And I think you see the idea behind what he's trying to do, and then it working in a way that, like, and sometimes with Canada, you kind of see some glimpses. But, like, I think the passing concept, like, how many open guys have there been in 2 weeks that are just open? And, look, we know these receivers are not the world's greatest.
Right.
And they're still getting guys open. And that they couldn't get Pickens and Deontay Johnson's the most open receiver in the world, and they could barely get him open last year. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's I think you just see a much better offense. Are they going to, like, score a bunch of points here? Look, I mean, there are 3 guys on the offensive line in this game with a combined total of 2 NFL games walking into this one. You're playing the guy who you think is your second best quarterback, for better or for worse. We know they don't have enough talent at wide receiver. If this offense fails, I would bet money on it not Arthur Smith not being the problem. Like where's the there's not overwhelming talent on this offense. I think they ran the ball pretty diligently against Denver. They didn't pop. I think Jalen Warren had an 11-yarder. That might have been the longest one that they had on the game, but they were still well over 4 yards a carry. The two of them combined for 30 carries, 120 yards or something like that. They ran the ball okay. It's most of the penalties and stuff. And I'm not saying they're going to get to 50 points, but this offense is going to take some time to gel, but it also just is not we don't really know what we have, what they have at quarterback. We're pretty sure they don't have enough at wide receiver. Why would we think that they're going to be why would we think that Arthur Smith is the problem if they're not very good? I don't see that.
Because this is Pittsburgh. We always blame offensive coordinators for everything in this city. Come on now.
I kind of set you up for that, didn't I?
But in all seriousness, I'm glad you put it the way you did, because I'm with you. I posed that question as a hypothetical because it's something that, I read, I listen, I watch what people are saying. I pay attention to interactions with fans. It's a big part of it. Look, we have a whole call-in line that is not open right now because we're very busy dealing with the day-to-day of the season. But I pay attention to what fans are saying.
Call them anyway. Don't listen to that. Call them.
Yeah, call them. But in all seriousness, it is. I pay attention to this stuff, and I get it. It is a track record. Even I was talking about somebody with this. If the quarterback situation works out, let's say Justin Fields and or Russell Wilson, whatever you want, is playing really well at the end of the year and is efficient and giving you solid quarterback play, and you're making the playoffs and you're going into the playoffs feeling really good about your quarterback situation. I think it would be the first time that you could say that you feel like that since 2018 when they didn't make the playoffs about their quarterback play late in the season. Because 2019, you had Devlin Hodges, Mason Rudolph, and that was just, that. Yeah. 2020, you had old man. 2020 late was old man Ben. But after that Cowboys
Week
game,
6, 2020, people were feeling some type of way. But I think by the end of that year, it became clear they didn't really have it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Even week 8 or 9, I felt like people were still this team could be serious. But I think that once you saw Ben's arm wasn't chucking it downfield the same way it was early in the season, you're like, uh-oh, this is a problem. And then you saw basically 2021 Ben Roethlisberger at the end of 2020. And so you look at that year, 2020, 2021. Obviously 2022 with Kenny Pickett, 2023's last year. This might be if this all develops, it will be the first time that they've had something quarterback play that will be efficient going into the playoffs late in the season. Again, it's a lot of ifs to get there. But my point in saying that is I get why there is this anxiety because it has been carrying over for so long. But do not allow that to cloud your judgment of what you're seeing right now. And what you're seeing, I know you're probably saying, well, I'm seeing 18 and 13 points, Chris, but you're also seeing well-designed plays that are developing guys open at natural paces. And I think you are seeing plays build off of each other, run plays that set up certain play action looks that are getting plays open. And I also think that you're seeing young guys figuring things out all while that's going on. To your point, Alan, Spencer Anderson made his second start in the NFL on Sunday. Zach Frazier made his second start in the NFL on Sunday. Troy Fautano made his first start in the NFL on Sunday. That's 3/5 of the offensive line. And so you're looking at that. Guys like Calvin Austin are still figuring things out. Darnell Washington just caught his first NFL touchdown. So much of this offense is figuring things out right now, and they're doing it while sticking to the script of, hey, it's early in the season. The defense is the dominant unit. Let them be the factor that wins the game. Do enough to get us over the finish line. But I do think the play structure is not the problem that people saw last year from Matt Canada, and that any concerns that it truly is, I think is more so just anxiety and fear and worry from fans creeping over from previous years into this year.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with all that. The other thing I'll say is I think the general conservativeness of the offensive game plan has been what the team needed.
Yeah.
It's not Madden. You don't try to score 34 points just because you can. If you know you only need 13 to win, that's you just man, like you're saying, like they're not playing their preferred quarterback. They got all these young guys. They're on the road. They're just trying to get out of there with a W and figure it out as they go along. Like there are no style points here. And like I think that's the other part of it. I think like that the conservativeness, I think people don't like, but like the conservativeness is winning them games. Look at what the game plan against the Atlanta Falcons. Everyone's all up in arms about, oh my gosh, you didn't throw the middle of the field. Did you see what happened to the Philadelphia Eagles last night? Did you watch that one? Did you see Jesse Bates make the game-winning interception in that game when Jalen Hurts threw it over the middle when they had plenty of time and did not have to force that ball down there? It's almost like Art Smith knew what he was talking about. Like I don't think the Steelers offense is going to be great. I think like middle of the pack is kind of their ceiling. But I'm certainly not going to be pointing fingers at Arthur Smith if that's like what happens. Like it's not.
But again, Alan, you get a middle of the NFL offense
with the best defense.
That's a competitive football team, and that's all
That's a team that is going into Buffalo or going into Kansas City in the playoffs, saying, you know what, we got a shot.
Yeah, a much better shot than you've had the last several years. Absolutely. We're going to get the stars and skulls next here. We got all the grades coming up next. Stay tuned here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. All the grades coming up next. Stick with Chris Carter, Alan Saunders. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you that this show is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the number one sportsbook in America. FanDuel gives you all the odds, ends, and lines that you could need every single week, whether it's NFL, NBA when that returns, NHL when that returns, MLB as they get ready for the playoffs, all the action you could want there, as well as NFL action, including the Steelers, which open as 1.5-point favorites over the Los Angeles Chargers at home on Sunday. Their straight-up line is -132. The over-under for a second straight week, Alan, is 36.5 points. Lots of great action there. Go to FanDuel.com for all that action today. There's also, FanDuel is offering something a little different for you right now through September 22nd, so you're running out of time. You got less than a week. You better get on it. But if you go to FanDuel, and bet $5, you can get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game right there. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Get that deal by visiting FanDuel.com to download America's number one sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com. Download the FanDuel app today to get America's number one sportsbook. We're back here in the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with Alan Saunders of SteelersNow.com. Alan, it's time to get to stars and skulls, baby. We missed you last week for the first one of the season. We're not missing you this week. This week, we're starting off with the skulls. Whenever you win, start with the bad, get to the good. So I don't have that many players I gave skulls to, but I do got one person I got 2 skulls on. You can probably guess who it is.
Ooh, I don't know if I can. Broderick Jones.
Yes. And this is not a big blemish upon Broderick Jones, but when you get benched in the middle of a game and you're not brought back, that's a bad sign there. And I'm one who said, and I publicly said, and I still stand by this, I don't think his holds were that egregious. I thought the one that was called a Najee Harris run, he was busy pancaking his guy as he had his hands inside the frame. The pass play to George Pickens that wiped out the 51-yard bomb, yeah, you can say he grabbed his jersey a little bit there. But again, as I keep putting, if that was called, if those kind of holes were called against TJ Watt's offensive linemen, the people that try to block him, there'd be teams in 1st and 50 week in and week out when the Steelers play them, but it certainly doesn't. But you add those two in the false start, I have to give him marks for that. But Broderick Jones is benched. Alan, even outside of just this game, I do think Broderick Jones, there are some people already labeling him a bust. I think that's way over the top. This is a guy that was raw. We knew was raw coming in. He's going to take time to develop. And I also think that despite, some of the comments that have been put out there that he said about, saying that he thought that the guy was flopping, he didn't like the refs calls. I've gotten the impression this dude knows what it takes to be a winner, knows what it takes to get the job done. When you talk to him, how he took Fautano under his wing, how he says all the right things in the locker room all off season, was as willing to help and still being willing to help now. I still think this is a guy that everyone should still be looking to as a future major part of this Steelers team.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's dealing with some stuff physically. I don't think he's right with that right arm. I don't think he looks right. You see the gigantic now collection of pads. It was one, now it's multiple. I don't know what to do with him right now, but I still think he's a part of the future of this team. It may take a while before he gets an opportunity again after that, but I would not be writing off Broderick Jones anytime soon.
Agreed. Real quick here on the one skulls, because there's only 2 one skull players, and one of them I really even hesitated to really put there. One is Beanie Bishop. Thought he got picked on a little bit in this game. Not too much, but not really marking him too harshly just for a one skull. Joey Porter Jr., because he did have two defensive pass interference / holding penalties in this game. I thought some of those were ticky-tack as well, considering what's generally allowed. But still, the penalty's not great. But in general, I think Joey Porter Jr.'s trajectory is very well. You look at what Drake London did to the Eagles last night. Drake London didn't do a doggone thing against Joey Porter Jr. The week before. I still think he has a potential to establish himself this season as one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL.
I don't even know if I can agree with putting Joey on this list. I do think the penalties were one of them was pretty ticky-tack. And the one catch for Cortland Sutton, 26 yards, but one catch. I mean, I think to take that. I did notice someone on the sideline late in the game ripped off a pair of yellow gloves and threw them down the sideline. Wonder if 24 is figuring out that matching the glove color to the opposing team's jersey color is a real thing, because he has always worn gold gloves. And ain't nobody has gold uniforms. So I think maybe we'll see him in white next week. I don't know.
That could be interesting. It could be interesting indeed. Again, I really hesitated on even putting him on that list just because but it was the penalties that made me say, I got to be objective with this as best I can. This is an art, not a science, people, as we do our stars and skulls grades. But let's get to the stars. And Alan? I got a lot of 1-star grades this week. No 3 stars, actually, but a lot of 1 stars. Running through the list of the names of people who aren't watching on YouTube and aren't listening on audio. I got Justin Fields, James Daniels, Dan Moore, Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, basically the whole offensive line minus Broderick Jones. George Pickens, Spencer Anderson, Corliss Waitman, Chris Boswell, Darnell Washington, Larry Ogunjobi, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, Pat Fryermuth, Torrey Trice, DeMonte Casey, Patrick Queen, and Micah Fitzpatrick. Okay, we got through all the names there, but we'll break off into different sections here. I thought collectively the offensive line did a solid job this week, Alan. They gave up some pressures here and there, but they moved the ball. I thought James Daniels did a good job. I didn't think anyone dominated. Like Zach Frazier, I thought had a hell of a game against the Falcons. I thought he had a good game this week. It wasn't as dominant, but I thought collectively, if you get positive performances across the board from the guys who played the majority of the game in the offensive line, that's a good day from that group.
Yeah, I thought Dan Moore was probably their most consistent offensive lineman in that game. I thought it's 2 really good games in a row for him. There was generally time for Justin Fields. I thought the running game, like I said, they didn't really crank him out, but they had space. I thought it was a pretty solid game.
Pretty solid there. Back here, want to talk about some of these other guys real quick. I don't talk special teams much. Corliss Waitman, I think he averaged 58 yards a punt in this game. That's what you want out of your punter. I know it sucks about Cam Johnston, but that guy came off a practice squad and gives you that kind of performance. I think he's solid there. Want to get your thoughts, though, on guys catching the ball not named George Pickens, because I put George Pickens as a 1-star simply because even though he cooked Patrick Surtain in this game, we're going to get to that. 2 catches, 29 yards with just 1 pass interference penalty he forced. It's tough for me to give that a 2-star considering the level of scrutiny that we give 2-star type of performances. But I thought Darnell Washington, if they finally threw to him in the red zone, that's what I've been saying to do since they drafted that man. Just throw it up to him and he's going to come down with it. I thought Pat Fryermuth got open a lot and made some plays as well. It further emphasizes to me, Alan, that Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin, I'm sure they're going to make their plays at some times, but doggone it, Arthur Smith, your offense is supposed to include these tight ends. I think they need to really start including more of these tight ends in some of these passing plays.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have included Fryermuth just because I thought he played okay, but he wasn't that impactful. I would probably have left him off, but I thought like it wasn't his fault, as you said. Like he was open. And so I don't know. That's tough. In general, though, I think like it's hard to find a guy in there on that list that I don't agree with their placement. I thought Najee Harris was very solid. I thought Jalen Warren looked a lot better after being pretty minimalized that first week. Yeah, he looked good. So yeah, bunch of solid there.
I thought Najee Harris doing what you need him to do right now. There's no super game breaking play, but he's always moving the pile forward, always pushing them forward. And I think that you're starting to see, oh, wait a second, these two is a 1-2 punch with an offensive line that's still figuring things out. There could be something there. I'm going to go to these 2 stars, and I want to come back to George Pickens because I want to finish on him in this. But 2 stars grades. I got 4 2 stars in this game. Deshaun Elliott, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Watt and Highsmith, of course, getting sats. Cam Hayward, when I look back, man, he was just bullying people at the line of scrimmage. I won't say that he's the Cam of old, but he is not just old Cam. He is out there making plays. He's out there pushing piles around. In this game, Pro Football Focus gave him 6 pressures, going up the middle. Highsmith had 4, Watt had 3. So I give all those guys 2 stars. I also give Deshaun Elliott a 2-star for his performance. I thought he was pretty good. He had that big tackle in the backfield and was pretty solid elsewhere. All in all, Alan, those defensive guys, I think, showed up in really big ways. And I think this defense isn't leaning on any 1 or even 3 players to be superstars at this point. And granted, they have superstars that they can do that with, but everyone's playing so well collectively that no one has to stand out for them to be great.
Javonte Williams, 11 carries, 17 yards. 1.55 yards per carry. His career low coming into this game when he had at least 8 carries was 2.14. That's like 3/5 of his career low. Like that's incredible. All that's Cam Hayward. I mean, not all of it, but like most of that is Cam Hayward. He was incredible against the run. I thought Alex and TJ did enough. I don't think they were trying to like go crazy with the pressures. I think they wanted Next to stay in the pocket.
They knew how mobile he was, and he wanted to run.
Yeah, and so I think they were a little bit more concerned with him running, and so they were a little bit more tactical with their pass rushing than they were last week when it was just all ears back after Kirk Cousins. But man, Cam Hayward, 2 straight games. Worth the money. I think people were crazy
that were saying no, that were saying he shouldn't get paid. I agree. All right, back to George Pickens real quick. I gave him a 1-star grade because he didn't have like supreme numbers or anything like that. But Alan, the more I look at the tape, man, there were some plays where he didn't even get the ball, where he was just toying with Pat Surtain in his routes. And I mean, this is what really impresses me, Alan. I expected George Pickens to win when the ball was thrown up between the 2 of them. I thought like, okay, that's a good situation for him. Where I wasn't sure is if he'd win is in his routes, getting off of the line, getting into his breaks, making Surtain have to guess wildly about where he was going or play it back off and play it safe. And consistently throughout the game, he wasn't getting targeted or it was getting called back or whatever, George Pickens was forcing Surtain to have to back off a lot. He was juking him out of his shoes. When we talked to Zach Ghazzani in spring, not even in the summer practice, in spring, he said the biggest thing for George is he has to do the little things right. And Allen, it's just 2 games, and he hasn't really popped off for big numbers. But I think George Pickens is doing the little things right. And if he does that throughout the season, his opportunities will come for big plays. And I think he could emerge as truly an elite wide receiver if he stays on that path.
I mean, you want to credit Arthur Smith or something? Look at how much he's moving around the formation. Look at the variety in the route tree that we have not seen from George Pickens over the first 2 years of his career. He looks like a completely different wide receiver out there. You can actually see the Broncos like, what do you mean he's over there? He doesn't go over there.
That's not allowed.
Like Pat, the first time they put him in the slot, they didn't have Surtain go with them, and he was 10 yards open. The biggest crime about that Van Jefferson OPI was that even if Van Jefferson wasn't there, George Pickens was 4 yards open Like it didn't need to do it. And so I think he looks incredible. I think Fields needs to throw him the ball more. I think he needs to trust him a little bit to come down with some more of those 50-50 ones. George is open when he's not open. I think we're just scratching the surface of what he can do.
I think so too. I think that George is a major threat to be a top level wide receiver. I think if he stays on this, he could even be a top 5 wide receiver sooner rather than later in the NFL. And that's very high praise. And this is also why I was saying I wasn't so sure that they should go out and pay a Brandon Ayuk, because you're going to want to pay if he stays on this trajectory and by the end of the season, you're talking about him like that. You're not just going to pay him a little bit. You're not just going to pay him decent money. Steelers might have to pay George Pickens some mega dollars if he continues to develop. And that's way down the line. Got to see if he sticks to it. Got to see if he keeps his head. But man, I do think that there is a good chance that he's figuring it out and the Steelers could use him moving forward. Alan, thanks so much for joining us here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. As always, you can find this show on your favorite podcasting apps on YouTube. Alan, the people that can find you, follow you, get more of your work.
At @Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, and TikTok. PGH Steelers Now site's account. SteelersNow.com is where you can find all my written work, and you can find my podcast with Zachary Smith and Steelers Afternoon Drive here on our YouTube channel or anywhere you find podcasts.
Absolutely. He's Alan Saunders. I'm Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, postgazette.com. Find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday, breaking down your Pittsburgh Steelers right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Back to more. Talk about Mike Tomlin's press conference and more here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.